I'm Brian. I have conversations with people about the gap between the life they're living and what they actually want. Today, we meet Ethan. By the end of the conversation, he'll call himself a name, answer a question about his own father that shocks him, and catch him treating himself differently than anyone else. Enjoy part one, the diagnosis. Now, we're live here.
For real this time.
For real. Okay, Ethan, welcome.
It's good to be here, kind of.
Yeah, we attempted this 1 second ago, and then I realized I wasn't recording.
My name is Ethan. I'm 23 years old. I work part-time at the Air National Guard, and I'm a full-time student working towards my associate's degree. I don't know what I'm going to do professionally yet, so I'm just working towards a general education degree, and I'm trying to use college as a way to sort of scope out my different options. I'm Christian, I'm introverted, and I think that's everything that I said last time, and nothing else comes to mind. So, as an introvert, I don't have much experience introducing myself to people. It doesn't happen a lot. So, yeah.
Well, you're doing things, but you say that you don't know what you want to do. Why do you say that?
It feels relevant. It feels because the time to end my study and begin working as a professional, I feel like is approaching fast. So it feels like something relevant to me right now.
What is approaching fast? What is this? Is this a train that is that you got a ticket for? It's coming your way, or what? How do you know this?
I hope I have a ticket. I mean, I'm working to get my ticket right now so that when the train's here, I can board it. But yeah.
So it's internal. You want to board this train and do a thing.
I don't even know if it's necessarily internal. I just have the drive. I'm not exactly sure. It could very well come from external sources.
Okay.
Right? It's what's typically expected of people.
I feel like you said a lot of things that you don't know about yourself. What's one thing that you do know about yourself?
First thing that comes to mind is what I've already said, introverted. 5'10". I honestly, being completely honest, there is not a whole lot that I can say about myself concretely. I've felt for a very long time like I am split between two polar opposites. You know, I sit on the fence on a lot of different issues. I don't know what I'm trying to say right now. Ask me again. Let me find my words.
Tell me about the two polar opposites. Don't worry about what you are going to say. Just tell me about what's coming up.
The two polar opposites? Well, I don't know what I'm going to do long term because there's a pole between like being a professional and seeing work as just a means of making money, but then there's a part of me that wants to create something, that wants to be creative, right? And I'm sort of stuck between those two realities right now, the need for money, but also the want to, I don't want to say express myself, but I think honestly express myself is the right word, because I think creativity draws something out of me that nothing else does. You know, whenever you create something like art.
What's something that you've created? How do you know this?
Haven't done anything to completion. I really don't. I really don't.
Okay. What do you mean by that? So you say you have this part of yourself that is creative, and there's this other part of you that is what? What were those two things that you put right against each other?
Pragmatic.
Pragmatic.
Okay. I need to make money. So I can have a shelter and food. It's the very, I guess you could say, logic, the logical side, right? That just needs to. Whose goal is to make sure that my physical needs are met.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So there's like if you had to give a role to that pragmatic side of you, what would the relationship role be that you would give it?
A role?
Something like a family member
Okay.
or someone close to you, or what would that pragmatic side of you be?
Well, I don't think I have enough discipline, so I feel like I would place it in an authority role. Yeah, I would give it control over me. I think if it was like a friend that just gives advice, I would not follow it. But if it was like a parent or other authority figure, then it could tell me directly what to do, and I would have a greater chance of actually doing that thing.
Very interesting. Okay. So what I got from there is that you have things that you hope to happen, but you don't necessarily trust yourself to get up and do all the things that you want. And so you hope that there's this part of you that can kind of whip you into shape. Okay, so that's the pragmatic side of you.
Mm-hmm.
Help me understand better about this creative side of you. Tell me about that.
I want to create. I don't exactly know what. I've experimented with different mediums. I'm embarrassed to admit I haven't really committed myself fully to any one medium for any extended period of time, but I just know that I want to make something.
What do you mean by medium? What are a couple examples for you?
A medium? Oh, writing books, making video games. Even more recently, I thought of pottery, because I told you about this earlier. It's a Japanese, I don't want to say art form. It's like a children's game, really. The Dorodango, right? You just make a ball of mud and you polish it until it's really shiny. And then that was a couple months ago that I made a little polished ball of mud, and I was like, maybe I could even do pottery, just anything where I get to create something. Yeah. So it could be anything, drawing too.
What happens when this creative side of you takes over?
I tell myself that I want to do it. But anytime I do it, I judge whatever I create pretty intensely. And I don't think that's coming from the creative side. Sometimes it does. Sometimes, I try and draw something and it just doesn't look the way it does in my head. But I feel like a lot of the times it's the pragmatic side that criticizes what I create, because I'll tell myself it's a waste of time, or the amount of time I would need to put into this in order to be good enough at it is just not worth the investment. So it's a very negative experience. That's probably why I don't stay in any one medium for a long enough period of time, because I sort of dip my toes in. It doesn't, of course it doesn't go perfect the first time, and then I sort of get down, and then I just shelve it. Maybe I pick it up again in a few weeks.
We don't usually do the things that only make us feel bad,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where's the good side of the emotions? Is there any positive moment that's part of creation for you? What's the whole story like around whenever you try to think about creating or do something?
It's not always negative. There's definitely positive experiences I've had with it whenever I'm genuinely able to put on paper, or drawing is probably the only times that I am able to successfully create what I seek out to. So there are times that I am able to successfully put on paper what I have in my mind, and that's a very gratifying experience. I take pride in it, but it doesn't happen a lot. It's at a random interval. What's the term I'm looking for? In psychology, the most addictive reward schedule is when it's given at a random interval.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like that. So whenever I draw, there's a 1 in 10 chance maybe that I will come out of that experience satisfied with what I've created, but there's like the other 9 times where you just crumble up the page, throw it away. So that's probably what keeps me going, is because I do have positive experiences with it occasionally, but it's not often and it's not predictable.
Man, that sounds kind of rough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Honestly, why did we go from from your uncertainty about what you want to do to this split between the creative and the pragmatic side of you? Is that joined? Is that a blocker for you to saying that this is what I want to do for sure? Like what is that block?
Mm-hmm. Well, nature hates a vacuum, and so when I'm unable to imagine myself doing any one thing in the future, both sides of me, the pragmatic side and the creative side, both have their own individual needs, and so they both are sort of fighting for that spot, So it's so weird saying they as if they're some separate thing, but I'm going to use the word they to describe them. It's like they are telling me what to do with that time, with that open slot in my schedule.
Okay. So what you're saying is that when you have time, one of these two modes activates consistently.
Usually both.
Both.
Yeah.
Is there another mode that is also present a lot, or are these like the main ones?
No, those are usually the two sides I feel torn between, like I was talking about earlier, is I either think to myself, whenever I'm feeling lazy, I should be working right now, or researching ways to make money, right? For lack of better term, just to put a broad term to it. Or I think to myself, I should be doing something that is more personally gratifying, like drawing or creating a video game or writing a book or something like that. That's more personally rewarding, but doesn't make a lot of money,
Okay. And I'm curious if this question of what to do, is this the most pressing question in your life, or is there something else that's higher up? What if you could wave your hand and just solve a problem for yourself, what would you pick?
It honestly probably would be that. If I know what I'm going to be doing with my future, and I know that it is going to provide me a base for financial stability, then I have security. Because right now it's I'm headed towards a ramp, and I don't exactly know where it goes. I know that I'm going to be in free fall unless I have a plan, right? How to land safely, Mm.
Interesting. Well, okay. So you have this desire for safety and having a soft landing.
Mm-hmm.
What would unsafety look like? What is this big scary failure that you're nervous about?
Not knowing what I'm gonna do with my day when I wake up, which is really what I do right now. I don't want to be in the state that I am right now. I feel like I'm in a transition phase, right, to my long-term career, except I don't know what that is. So I feel like I'm stuck in a cocoon. I don't know how to describe it. That's a really lame way to summarize the experience, but I feel like I should know by now what the rest of my life is going to look like, but I have no idea. And so there's a lot of unknowns that I would feel more comfortable if they were knowns. You're going to live with your parents forever.
Oh.
You're never going to move out of the house. You know, you're going to be financially dependent on others, and you're not going to be able to have a life of your own, right? You're going to be stuck in this one place, and you're not going to be able to be in a position to provide for others. Because long term, that's what I want to do. I want to be able to be, you know, a husband, a father, and, you know, someone who's living with their parents, and unable to provide for themselves, can't provide for others. So I think that's the nightmare situation that I'm trying to avoid.
Oh, interesting. Okay. What's the more scary thing? Staying at home with parents or not helping others?
So the options are be independent but don't help others, or remain with my parents but be in a position to help others. You know, I really don't know, because that I feel like now one side is telling me you want to, and I should be in a position to help others, but I feel like pragmatically and selfishly, I would rather just be independent. Well, on one hand, I feel like it would be more rewarding personally to be in a position to help others and act in a way that's selfless, but I feel like on the other hand, I would be more likely to be looked at like a loser if I was still with my parents. So I feel like just the prospect of independence is of utmost importance, because at least then it doesn't matter what I'm actually doing, but at least I wouldn't look like it wouldn't look like I was a loser, because I was like, oh, well, I'm you know, I'm making it on my own. But that requires me to see myself through the lens of others. Whereas if I were to not care about others' opinions, I would remain with my parents and help others. So I'm a social creature, you know, so I constantly look at myself through the lens of other people, you know, whenever I'm in public. That's why when I'm in private, I feel a lot more confident. And then I walk into a room full of people, and then immediately my perspective switches. I switch to like third person view, where all of a sudden I'm seeing myself through that person's eyes, this person's eyes, this person's eyes. And I'm thinking, I'm wondering to myself how they're all perceiving me at any given moment. So whenever I take into account others' opinions, I prefer independence. But if I didn't care about others' opinions, I would probably stay with parents.
What's one specific thing that helping others would look like for you?
It would really just be uplifting. Uplifting and inspiring, because I feel like I probably say that because that's what I perceive myself to be in need of, right? So I think that is one of the best ways that I could help others.
Okay, and why is financial independence important for you? Have you already told us, or is it something that you haven't mentioned yet? Financial independence is important for me because
I want to be in a position to provide for others.
And what else opened up whenever you talked about that?
Because of the way other people perceive me?
Yes, both, right? Mm-hmm. And which way do you not want to be perceived by others?
As someone incapable of providing for themselves.
Okay. Did you notice how you've labeled yourself? You used a specific word.
Mm-hmm. Loser?
Oh, there
Loser.
It is.
Right.
So you don't want to be a, quote, Loser.
I use the term loser to describe a future that I could find myself in, but that future is actually just if I continue living the way I am right now. So yeah, I guess in an indirect way I did. In an indirect way, I call myself a loser. But
Okay. So the you don't want to be, you've identified as loser.
me.
What? That's you? What do you mean?
Well, yeah, well, living with parents, not financially independent, right? So I guess I currently fit that criteria. I guess what I'm afraid of is still meeting a criteria in my 30s, right? It's like, oh, I had all that time to figure that out, but like I'm still, in the same spot that I was when I was, 23.
Well, this is interesting. Is there ever a time that it's totally fine? Let's say that you had a kid. Do you want to be a parent at some point?
Mm-hmm.
Is that important to you?
Yeah.
Like a little bit or a lot?
I think it's probably the most important. Well, a dad, not just having a child, but being a father.
Being a father.
Providing. Like a providing father. Right?
Oh, can you be a father without providing?
Well, yeah.
What is that? What could you provide? What
could I provide? Wait,
what do you hope to provide?
A roof.
Okay. Is it mostly material?
Well, there's a roof, but then also to spend time with them and to have a healthy relationship with their mother, just hopefully a marriage, hopefully that, so I got tongue tied again.
It's okay. We're talking about roofs.
Yeah.
Providing.
So I think the roof is probably the most important thing, but then after that comes all of the psychological needs to be there for them, give them quality time,
Interesting. Let's say I'm a dad and I can provide a roof, but I can't see my boys when I do it. Which one should I pick?
Quality time or financial support.
Something has happened in my life to put me in a situation where I cannot do both. I just can't. But I can do one. Which one should I pick?
Well, if the choice is between being homeless but having quality time or having
I mean, I didn't say having quality time. I said I can't see them.
You can't see them?
I literally cannot see them. Or I cannot provide a roof.
If I don't see any other way that they can be fed, then probably choose not to see them. I think it's at least more.
I didn't say that. That's not what I said.
They're under no threat of...
I said no roof.
No roof?
No roof that I can provide for a time. What would that mean, no roof? What does a roof what counts as a roof? This is what I'm trying to get at here. What do you mean by that?
That they sleep in beds, that they have a home. I'm not exactly sure. It could be a couch or a cot. I spent years growing up sleeping on a pull-out couch in the living room. I spent many years doing that as a kid.
On a pull-out couch? Were you damaged?
I am A-okay. Well, a little bit, but I'm still here. Just got some
pull-out
some
couch
issues.
Damaged.
Yeah. Pull-out couch, that was only for a couple months. Most of the time I was just sleeping on just a regular couch. I just took the cushions off the back of the sofa for a little bit more room, and then I unrolled a sleeping bag, and that was my room.
Okay.
Mhm.
So sleeping bag and pull-out couch. Did you have quality time with your parents?
Yeah.
If you were a kid and you could choose camping for a month or seeing your dad at all for, let's say, 2 months. 2 months of camping or 2 months of spending time with your dad, but you cannot have both because you can't afford it. What would you have wanted? Would you have chosen the camping trip, or would you have chosen...
Well, to just go camping without dad?
No, he's
Or-
with you.
Oh.
He's with you, but you're not. You lost the pull-out couch. You're on a sleeping bag for a month,
Mm-hmm.
but you can be with your dad, or you cannot be with your dad at all. But you have a roof. You got the pull-out couch.
Well, I'd probably rather do the camping, but I treat them as though they have a lower tolerance than I do, typically.
Okay. Be that as it may, I'm going to go back here. I'm asking this question because I think you're telling yourself a lie. I think you're bull crap, full of crap about this particular thing.
Which one? I mean,
I think there's a lie that's hidden in this nervousness between providing or, I don't know, creating or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of it is that we've inflated what providing means. You've told me that you spent time on a pull-out couch. It wasn't forever, but it happened. And you also said that you feel like you are A-okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you've also told me that, if you didn't even have the pull-out couch, but if you had to go camping for a month or two, but you could keep dad, you would choose to keep dad.
Right, but I wouldn't do the same to my kids because I would rather. Was that the disconnect?
Yes.
Okay.
So what I'm getting here is that there's a particular fear of just basically abject poverty, whatever that looks like, not having a place. And why is that so important to have a place? What is it about being homeless that's so unacceptable?
It's uncertainty. You don't know where you're going to sleep, the very next night. You don't know when you're going to get your next meal. There's
Okay.
physical needs that need to be met.
Okay. It seems to me that everything that you said is a feeling that you have associated with this state of being. You're saying that if I were to be homeless or someone were to be homeless, it would make me feel this and this and this. And these feelings are unacceptable. Therefore, homelessness is unacceptable. Do you see that? Everything you're truly afraid of is an internal response that's associated with this label. It turns out that even homeless people, you can get a lot of food. Now, is it uncertain? Yes. It's the uncertainty about food. But there are some homeless people that have solved that problem. Now, tell me, what is it that this part of you is stopping you from experiencing?
The third person side, what is it stopping me from experiencing? It's stopping me from, in a lot of cases, it is stopping me from doing what I want to do because, yeah, I do fear the way others will perceive it, or stops me from drawing, from writing, because whenever I look at it, it doesn't matter if it's really good enough for me. I tell myself that it's not good enough for others, or that others won't think it's enough. So in a lot of ways, it stops me from doing what I want to do.
What if you had a little boy? Let's say we got little mini Ethan. What would you tell little mini Ethan?
I would definitely try to get him to not care about others.
Why?
I've personally long felt it is a burden to care, and it usually doesn't actually give you anything in return. You do a lot for social acceptance, and it's nice, but it isn't worth the price that you pay.
What price have you paid?
I sort of paid in my own identity. I haven't really done a lot of things. I haven't really tried to. What have I not done? Sorry, could you ask that again?
What has this part of you cost yourself? What haven't you done?
I haven't tried enough things. Because trying new things comes with not being good at them, and there is nothing inherently wrong with not being good at something, but from a social lens, from the perspective of others, there is sort of a stigma against that. I don't even think that stigma exists in reality, but I project it to exist. I assume that other people will care that I'm, bad at drawing or bad at writing or bad at any given thing.
So given what we've shared so far, what are some ways that you're lying to yourself? What are some of your most pertinent lies?
I don't know, I feel like I've identified a lot of those lies, but that doesn't stop me from feeling a certain way about them.
Correct.
Yeah. Because I feel like I've identified that it's not really worth the trade-off.
Let's say here's this thing and it's a lie and I know it. What's one of them? Go.
That I should care about what other people think about me.
Go. Next.
Homelessness isn't as scary as I initially thought.
Go. Next.
Oh, man. Being a loser is a label that actually carries weight. Kind of. I'm reaching now. I'm
Why is that one not the same as the others? What's different about that one?
It is sort of an expansion on the first, that you shouldn't care about what others think, because loser is just really... A loser is a value judgment that is... You can only call someone a loser when comparing them to a certain standard, and that standard is usually one that's set by other people.
There are some people that even may temporarily find themselves nearly or maybe actually homeless. And their kids would still choose them to be their father. They don't want a new dad. What's coming up as I share that?
I don't know, I guess I sort of devalue my presence when I say that. Like, oh, other kids deserve to be with their fathers, but I'm like, could my presence really mean that much to someone, I guess, is the question that pops up. And I think looking at it from the outside, the answer seems to be like, obviously, but I come back to the same issue where it's like, I know that's the truth, but it's hard to really feel that
It's
way.
okay.
You know?
You can say it and not feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an important step, right? Because it's okay to begin somewhere. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
It really, really is. I think what you shared so far is remarkable. Really, really remarkable. I think we have a good intellectual understanding of the particular things that are causing chaos on your inside, and that are making it really, really hard to feel like you're progressing.
Yeah, I'd say that's a fair evaluation.
So, why did you accept my invitation to talk today?
It's a new experience. I also want to help out. I want to help out, and I also just enjoy these conversations. So,
What reason aren't you sharing? What else?
I can't think of anything, honestly. I mean, I could maybe expand on I enjoy these conversations.
Yes, tell me that.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, the reason I enjoy these conversations, I don't know, sometimes I walk away with a new perspective because I pace a lot. I spend most of my days just like walking back and forth and thinking, you know.
Am I your external pacer?
I am a crazy pacer. This is why it's really hard to sit still for this long, especially when I'm talking about something that requires a lot of like introspection. My impulse is to just get up and start walking around to help me, you know,
You're
get the fluids moving. But
you're doing great.
But I pace a lot, and I always think about different things. But a lot of the times, I'm introspective. I'm what's the current progressive tense for introspection? Like I'm introspecting. I'm doing that. I am partaking in introspection throughout a lot of the day. And I think I'm able to find a lot of valuable insights by myself, but getting another perspective is always helpful. So sometimes, you know, I don't necessarily discover anything new, but then sometimes I'm given a new perspective. So that's always valuable.
Okay. Let's take a quick break.
So I can get up and pace.